When President Uhuru Kenyatta took office in 2013, he created the Presidential Strategic Communications Unit and domiciled it at Statehouse. And that unit had several senior directors. There was Dennis Itumbi, who was the senior director, digital, innovations, and diaspora communications. A very big title. There was Eric Ngeno, who was in charge of speech writing. Then there was David Nzioka, there was John Ndolo, and then there was Joseph Kenywa. All these people were senior directors. And one question which Kenyans have been asking themselves is simple. How did Dennis Itumbi manage to find himself right at the center of the presidency? Because yesterday, President Uhuru Kenyatta fired all these people, apart from Munir Mohammed, who was also part of the initial team. But Munir Mohammed was promoted previously to deputize Kanze Dena. But how did Dennis Itumbi find himself right at the center of the presidency? How? And what message was President Uhuru Kenyatta sending out by firing all these people? Because from all indications, these are allies of the deputy president, William Samoei Ruto. Now, this is how Dennis Itumbi found himself right at the center of the presidency. We all know that President Uhuru Kenyatta first contested for the presidency in 1997. And he contested for the Gatundu South Member of Parliament on a Kanu ticket. And Uhuru Kenyatta was winning because he had the name of the father. And the people of Gatundu knew that Uhuru had the potential of becoming a future president. And during that time, we must all remember that Central Province was the center of opposition politics at that time. And Uhuru Kenyatta had an opponent on a DP ticket called Moses Muhia. So this guy, towards the tail end of the campaign, decided to Malaysia himself. So he went missing. It was his strategy. He went missing. And the next day, the cousin reported that the candidate was missing. And all of a sudden, a vehicle similar to his was found in some river there. And at the bank of the river, there were blood and signs of commotion. But Moses Muhia was nowhere to be seen. So you know how those propaganda now started spreading. And you remember Kanu was associated with disappearances. So Moses Muhia resurfaced on the election day. And he was telling people that he disappeared because Kanu wanted to harm him. So he won the sympathy. By the time Uhuru realized, these guys had changed the tide against him. So Moses Muhia became the member of parliament for Gatundu. He defeated Uhuru Kenyatta. And Uhuru Kenyatta learned his lesson from that time. And we all know that in 2002, President Moi, former President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, supported Uhuru Kenyatta and became the Kanu presidential candidate. And easily managed to win the seat. But at the presidential level, Uhuru Kenyatta lost. Because Kenyans were not ready for another Kenyatta. The image, he was carrying the burden of the father. So Kenyans rejected it. And Uhuru realized that that was a mistake. So in 2007, Uhuru Kenyatta decided not to contest. And he supported Kibaki. Because he wanted to endure himself to the Kikuyus. So he supported Kibaki. Because Kibaki was now aging and Uhuru was now the potential candidate or potential successor to Mwai Kibaki. So Kibaki and Raila contested for that presidency. Of course, Raila Odinga won and the system managed still to make Mwai Kibaki the president. So after that, after that election, we all remember that we had the ICC cases up. And Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, and several others were charged at ICC. So Uhuru Kenyatta was facing the ICC burden, apart from the image of the father. So around 2010, Uhuru Kenyatta realized that he needed to brand himself because he was planning to run for the 2012 or 2013 general election. So he wanted to brand himself. So Uhuru Kenyatta reached out to Johnson Sakaja. For those who remember, Johnson Sakaja by that time was still a young boy who was just trying to make ends meet, but in communications, trying to do communication stuff in the city of Nairobi. So Uhuru Kenyatta reached out to Johnson Sakaja to help him build the brand. And he gave Sakaja an office somewhere in Lavington. And the role of Sakaja was to build Uhuru Kenyatta in the face of ICC, in the face of the father. So that Uhuru wanted to build the brand Uhuru, not brand Kenyatta, the way Moi did it with him. So he recruited Sakaja. He gave Sakaja an office. Then Sakaja now started working. And Sakaja now started crafting a team. So that's how Sakaja managed to bring on board David Nzioka, one of the guys who was kicked out, who was in charge now of SMS communications. Anytime Uhuru wanted to relay SMS, so David Nzioka was there. He came up with Marvin Tumbo, who was in charge of digital media. Sakaja also brought in him James Mureithi, who was in charge of branding. He also brought with him Dennis Itumbi. He brought Dennis Itumbi on board because initially Itumbi was not really pro Uhuru. So he brought Itumbi on board. And Itumbi was in charge of media and press. So that's how Itumbi found himself around President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And after that, we know that from that time, this team worked so well, and Dennis Itumbi started making a name for himself. Because during the ICC cases, he was able to access certain information, and he was relaying them. And because he was now working with President Uhuru Kenyatta, and Uhuru Kenyatta was with Mwai Kibaki, at least he had access to information, so he could relay certain information which were credible. And he was doing it so well. He was communicating up to a time I remember so well. Dennis Itumbi was accused even of hacking ICC website, which he didn't do. But later on, he was paid heavily, 5 million out of that. So that's how Itumbi found himself in President Uhuru Kenyatta's circle. So when Uhuru now wanted to contest for the presidency, and having analyzed what Sakaja did for him, he decided that Sakaja was now going to be the chair of the party he was going to form. So Sakaja was now promoted by Uhuru Kenyatta to become the chairman of TNA. So Sakaja left this team. So by the time he was leaving, according to sources, there were around 15 people. So Sakaja left them there. So they worked for Uhuru throughout that campaign so well, attacking Raila Odinga, doing all the propaganda work, Itumbi taking the face of this whole team. So when Uhuru Kenyatta formed the government, then Uhuru Kenyatta decided to carry with him this team. Because Raila Odinga is a lethal guy, so he still needed this team. So that's how he created the Presidential Strategic Communications Unit and domiciled it at Statehouse, so that these guys were on standby in case of any other thing. And that's how Itumbi was appointed to be to the position of Senior Director. Digital, Innovations, and Diaspora Communications. But Dennis Itumbi and the group, remember Eric Ngeno now came from William Ruto's side. But Dennis Itumbi and the team failed to realize one thing. That when Uhuru Kenyatta was declared the winner and took oath of office, he was now the president of the Republic of Kenya. Uhuru Kenyatta ceased being the presidential candidate. Uhuru Kenyatta therefore didn't need them to continue insulting people there, releasing some of those kind of messages they were listening. So Uhuru Kenyatta decided to shop for someone who could head his presidential press unit. Remember, these guys were given their unit. So Uhuru decided to create another unit. And he outsourced, or he had hunted Manoa Esipisu. So that's how Manoa Esipisu came to Statehouse as the spokesperson. But once he came there, and because Uhuru Kenyatta had worked with Dennis Itumbi and the rest for long, these guys felt that this guy, Manoa Esipisu, ought to be listening to them more. But this guy was also under strict instructions from President Uhuru Kenyatta and senior people around him to ensure that the communications in Statehouse reflected the image of a president. So they started having problems immediately. So those problems persisted. And I remember around 2016, there was a story that Dennis Itumbi, Uhuru Kenyatta, And members of this team held a meeting at Statehouse. And that meeting was chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta. And these guys thought that that was an opportunity now to attack and accuse Manoa Esipisu. So they talked, each one of them talked. And when President spoke, he gave them one instructions that they must do what Manoa tells them. And that every week they must give their weekly report to Manoa Esipisu. Then again, these guys committed another mistake along the way. And for those who remember, after committing that mistake, all the handles they were managing was taken away from them. No, I think before that, they committed some mistakes here. And then they were removed from Statehouse and they were sent to certain ministry. And then later on, they came back to Statehouse. And then after the general election now, because Uhuru was still facing a general election in 2017, so he still needed these people. So after the election, and now we even had the handshake, it means Uhuru Kenyatta really didn't need their services unless they also changed their ways. But still, they refused to do this. So Uhuru Kenyatta decided at one point, because according to sources, this guy was very tired with them. Manoa Esipisu was very tired with these people because they kept on making mistakes every single day, sometimes even releasing unnecessary communications. So Uhuru Kenyatta decided one day to just remove all the handles they were managing. And he appointed Kanzedena. But again, these guys still, they gave Kanzedena problems because they believed Kanzedena was an outsider. So that's how Dennis Itumbi managed to come close to the presidency. But towards those time, around that time, these guys now started drifting towards the deputy president, especially after the handshake, because the deputy president was not for a handshake. So Uhuru Kenyatta and the team were not happy. Remember, Dennis Itumbi even threatened to expose video recording of the presidency plotting to assassinate the deputy president. So their time to be removed from office was just imminent. In fact, if you ask me, these guys were kicked out from Statehouse. But I think the president was just lenient to them and allowed them to continue earning salary. But because they've persistently continued to abuse the president really didn't see any need to continue having them in office. So when they were fired yesterday, the reaction of Kenyans were totally different. And personally, from my side, I can't really celebrate that these guys were fired, because I won't wish for anybody to be fired or to face such kind of a calamity, because this world were in a rotate. So tomorrow it's Itumbi, the next day it's him, and of course Dennis Itumbi and myself, we share a lot in common. No, I don't have any direct contact with him, but we share a lot in common, especially on our engagement online. So I won't wish him bad. But there are Kenyans who are celebrating, because these guys were just too much, attacking. But what message was President Uhuru Kenyatta sending out to the deputy president? Because all these guys are allies of the deputy president. Remember, when this problem started, President Uhuru Kenyatta brought in Kanzedena and elevated Munir Mohammed, who was also part of this team, to Statehouse. And these guys were removed from Statehouse. So these guys found solace in the office of the deputy president. That's where they've been working from, but earning salary as senior directors. So what message was President Uhuru Kenyatta sending out to these people or to Kenyans? Number one, I think the president is telling Kenyans that I'm done with the DP. I'm done with him. Why? If these guys have been championing and advocating for the cause of the deputy president, and all of them have been fired. Eric Ngeno was seconded to the president by the DP and he's been fired. Now why? He started with them. In fact, when these guys were removed from Statehouse, that was the first signal. So the president is now just confirming that he really doesn't need these people anywhere. So he's done with the DP. Number two, I think the president and his handlers also want to test whether the DP can now retain them. Because initially there was an argument that they were still working for the government. The only thing is they were kicked out of office, so they didn't have where to operate. So the DP gave them a solace somewhere to squat. But now that they've been fired, will the DP fire them or will he return them? So I think the president is sending that message. Remember, when President Uhuru Kenyatta fired Rashid Chesa, he found solace in the deputy president. Now that he has fired Itumbi and these other 5, will they still find solace or find comfort around the deputy president? I think the president is trying to test that. Number 3, I think the president is also now focusing on his legacy. Although most Kenyans are saying that the only legacy the president should focus on is a Subaru legacy. But I think the president is focused on his legacy. That's why he doesn't want disorganized communication strategy. So his communication strategy and that of Dennis Itumbi cannot help him achieve whatever he wants to achieve. So I think the president is not focusing. He's getting rid of these people so that he can focus on his legacy. Whether he's going to achieve those legacies or not, that one I can't tell us right now. But I want to strongly believe that the president is sending out a message that is keen on his legacy. And lastly, I think the president is also telling these people that the handshake is here to stay. Because remember, all these guys, their work from 2010 up to now has always been Raila Odinga. So when Uhuru had the handshake with Raila Odinga, he expected these guys to tone down. But they've never toned down. In fact, anytime Itumbi is posting things, you'd think that his boss is William Ruto and not even Uhuru Kenyatta. And now Uhuru had the handshake. It's just confirming to them that, my friends, if you don't support this handshake, we're jitembeze. And I think that message has not been delivered in a very clear way. So it's up to them to figure out how they are going to move forward. I don't know what you think, but in my view, that's how Dennis Itumbi found himself around Statehouse and why Uhuru Kenyatta decided to send them out and the message which is sending to his deputy. I don't know what you think. And if you're bumping on this video for the first time, just hit the subscribe button here so that next time we produce a video like this, you get notified. And to the subscribers, I want to continue. Thank you guys for your continued support. Without that support, this channel cannot be where it is today. Thank you guys, and please, may you have a good day. And by the way, for those who want to reach me, my contacts are 0777 741323. Purely WhatsApp. Just reach me on that number anytime, anywhere. I'll try to respond. Although the messages sometimes are overwhelming, but those who always reach me, they'll confirm that I always try as much as possible to respond to them. Even if not instantly, sometimes later on. Thank you guys, and please, may you have a good day.